Alright guys, I'm Dominic with KitGuru, and if you read some of my reviews over on kitguru.net, you will know I do a lot of gaming headsets. However, what you can see in front of me, they are not gaming headsets. In fact, they are around £150 each, £150 headphones. The reason we're looking at headphones is because, say you've been using gaming headsets for the last few years, maybe you've even been buying some of the more high-end ones from the likes of Corsair, Razer, Hyperx, those guys, but now you've got to a point where you want to step it up, you want to take it to the next level. That's why we've put this little bit of content together. There's a full article with my in-depth thoughts over at kitguru.net, so check that out. But here I just want to present to you a few of my thoughts, a few of my opinions about where you can go if you've been using gaming headsets but you want to step up to the next level. So I'll first take you through the 3 different pairs of headphones we got into review and to test out and essentially compare, see what improvements and what the performance difference is from going from a gaming headset like the Hyperx Cloud 2, Hyperx Cloud Revolver, Corsair Void, all those sorts of things. What benefit can you get from moving from one of those to a dedicated pair of headphones like these? So, first of all, we've got the Sennheiser HD 598Cs or CS, however you want to call it. Then we've got the Beyerdynamic DT990 Edition, and finally the AKG K702s. So these all dedicated audio headphones we bought from Amazon. They range in price from around, I think the AKGs are currently 129, I think the Beyerdynamics are 150 around, and the Sennheisers are about 140. So they're actually not too much more than some of the high-end gaming headsets. For example, a few months ago I reviewed the Hyperx Cloud Revolver S, and that's 129, which is the same as the AKGs. So what kind of improvement can we get from moving from a gaming headset to a dedicated pair of headphones? Well, I'll start with these two, because these two, the Beyerdynamics and the AKGs, these are both open back headphones. So essentially the sound is just so much more natural. No, that's not true. I had used one pair of open back headphones before, but my experience with them was very limited. It was actually a cheaper Roccat gaming headset, so not a scratch on these ones. But we'll start with gaming, because that's probably what most of us are here for. Gaming with an open back pair of headphones is simply unreal. It's just, the soundstage is so much bigger, you get a sense of immersion, especially open world games like The Witcher 3, Skyrim, those sorts of things. When you're in a big open landscape, you're just walking through a forest or what have you. The sound, just the overall atmosphere and like it's so hard to describe it, but the world around you just sounds so much better, so much more immersive with an open back pair of headphones. The downside of open back is they do leak a lot, but if you're just alone in your room, it's fine. Just don't try and take them out on the bus or something, because you'll probably annoy a lot of people around you. But so from a purely gaming perspective, I really enjoyed using the AKG K702 and the DT990s from Beyerdynamic. The Beyerdynamics are a lot brighter sounding though than the AKGs. The AKGs are actually meant to be reference headphones, so used in a studio to kind of mix everything perfectly. So they're a fair bit flatter than the Beyerdynamics, which have a lot more detail in the high end. I actually prefer using the DT990s for music overall, just because I wouldn't normally associate myself with preferring brighter sounds. I just preferred the detail and the clarity you got from the DT990s. But the AKGs I think were better for gaming. They had a slightly wider soundstage, but just the flatter overall sound signature was just worked a bit better for me for gaming. Was the DT990s, love them for music, but the high-end clarity was a bit too sharp for gaming. So when I was playing frenetic games of CSGO, Star Wars Battlefront, some of my favourite FPS games, it was just a bit off-putting and a bit distracting. And they could cause you ear fatigue as well. It's obviously highly subjective. They were fine for me. I really love them for music, but just because of the sharpness of the overall sound, you could well run into problems with ear fatigue, but that's subjective, so I won't touch too much on that. Now, I haven't touched on the Sennheisers yet. I have to say, the Sennheisers were my least favourite. Around £140, compared to a normal pair of a normal gaming headset, the quality is far and away still much, much better. but these are actually closed back, which is what the HD598Cs stand for, C or CS, closed, what have you. So these would be much better for taking out on the go. They're noise isolating, not noise cancelling, but they're closed back and they don't leak. So, well, they'll leak slightly, but nowhere near as much as the open back headphones. So these will they'll sound so much better than, for example, I was using these three and then I switched back to the Hyperx Cloud Revolver S, which I mentioned is roughly the same price as these. And even the Sennheisers, which I like least, the detail and the clarity, especially in the mid-range region, is just far and away miles better than any gaming headset I've used. And even the high-end ones like that Revolver S, similar price, just doesn't sound anywhere near as good. The mid-range sounds almost distorted in comparison. It sounds a lot more muffled. And that's a good gaming headset, which I quite liked at the time. So take from that what you will. There's definitely benefits to be had. I would stick to an open back pair, just especially if your focus is for gaming. You want even better audio for gaming. The open back, the level of immersion you get is really good. I actually got to use them with a Sennheiser dedicated gaming DAC/amp. I think it's called the GSX 1200. I'll be reviewing that soon, and that's got an inbuilt virtual 7.1. And the audio placing when you're playing games with these is phenomenal anyway, loads better than a gaming headset. But the Sennheiser 7.1 was actually really good as well. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. So I really liked using them. I prefer the open backs. These Sennheisers will still be better than any gaming headset you want, but I really would recommend a open back pair, just simply because the soundstage and the immersion is something else. There are a few things to consider though if you're moving from a gaming headset to a dedicated pair of headphones. Firstly, there's the mic. You've got to think about the mic. For example, obviously a gaming headset's going to come with a mic anyway. It might be detachable, it might be retractable, or maybe it'll just be stuck on there. But obviously none of these come with a mic, so you're going to want to think about how you're going to add in a communication layer. I recently reviewed the Antlion Mod Mic 5. That's a pretty good way of doing it. It's essentially a standalone mic which you can just stick onto a pair of headphones. That worked pretty well. Or a lot of people seem to like Blue Yetis or those on-desk condenser mics. Asus did one the other. I can't remember what it's called. Asus have done their own condenser mic now. I think it was called the Magnus, but one of those on-desk desktop USB condenser mics, which is another option. But that leads me on to my second thing to consider, is the added cost. For me personally, I think it's well worth it what you're paying. These are a bit more than most gaming headsets. For example, HyperX Cloud 2s are around £70, £80, and they're very popular. These, like I said, range from about £120 to £150 here in the UK. You also might want to consider an external DAC or amp. The Sennheisers and the Beyerdynamics have quite low impedance. I think these are 32 and these are 23 ohms impedance. The AKGs are a bit higher and I struggle to drive those with my phone. These two would be fine, but if you're starting to get into the high-end audio world, you're probably going to want a dedicated amp. I was actually using the FIO E10K, which is only £60, tiny thing, little external USB DAC/amp, and it worked really well. Just plug in your headphones and it's got a volume dial, and with these two I wasn't really taking the volume up past 2, so they're fine. The AKGs I had to increase the volume to around 5, but still drive them absolutely perfectly. But it's just something to consider. I would personally say the gains to be had moving from a gaming headset to a dedicated pair of headphones is well worth the extra cost. You have to buy an extra mic and you'd probably want to look into some sort of amp solution, but well worth it. So in total, if I bought these Beyerdynamics and my E10Ks plus a mod mic, we're probably looking in the region of around £250, which in the high-end audiophile market is bargain basement. For example, Alan, who is our managing director, he's reviewed plenty of high-end headphones. For example, the Sennheiser HD800S, they cost over £1,000, and they're still considered, frankly, relatively low-end in the scale of things. So that just tells you how cheap some of this stuff actually is. It's obviously going to be more than your typical gaming headset, but from a personal level, using an open back pair of headphones with, I used my Mod Mic 5, because I still had that from the review. These AKGs, Mod Mic, and the FIO E10K DAC, The sound was brilliant. It was really good for gaming, and it was just simply so much better than what you'd get with a gaming headset. So if you are someone who's been using a gaming headset for a while, you want to take the next step, there are definitely some bargains to be had. Even if you're only spending a little bit more than the actual cost of a gaming headset, the quality you get from a dedicated pair of headphones is simply unreal. So this has just been a brief overview of my experience with these dedicated headphones. If you want to get my full findings, I do talk a bit more in depth about what they sound like for music, games, and the comfort of the different headphones as well. Check the link over at kitguru.net for the full article. We'll post it down below in the description. If you like this video, give us a like, subscribe as well, follow us on Twitter, which is @kitgurupress, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Are you using a gaming headset? Are you tempted to upgrade to a dedicated pair of headphones, or are you already doing that?